Hello everybody, Jeanette Anderson here with the Bodacity Show. And today's episode, I'm going to give you a debrief of a fabulous little training that I was just in with Jackie McClanahan on how to sell from the stage. So I'm not going to cover everything that we covered because it was 4 hours or something like that. But one of the key components that I think is going to be very valuable for any of you who are in business or who want to promote an idea or a thought in your career, who want to convince your husband or your wife to go to a certain place with you, any of you who want to enroll others in something that you would like to have, a really valuable component of her 6 pillars that she talks about, the 6 pillars to be of a successful speaking business. The first pillar is called core message clarity. So core message clarity is the thing that I want to talk to you about today because I think it's a big part of what I espouse and what I work with people on. It's certainly a part of What the Hell Do I Sell? How to Package, Price, and Position Your Expertise course, which I have coming up soon. And most of the work that I do with people is really helping them clarify their whys. So that's why I've been called the Why Whisperer. It's really helping people get clear on what is their core message, their core motivator, their core why they do what they do. So if you are an aspiring speaker, I encourage you to go to Jackie McClanahan's page, look up Pure Potentials here on Facebook or on Google. She has a number of programs, especially if you're Calgary-based, but she does have people fly in from all around the world to attend some of her speaker training. And a lot of her content, because this is actually the first time that I've seen some of her content today, was very practical, very pragmatic, and very helpful, and meeting people where they're at versus, lofty conceptual things of how to actually build keynote speeches, how to create content for people, how to be a better speaker. So check out Jackie McClanahan, Pure Potentials, if you're interested in upping your speaking game. So like I said, her 6 pillars of 6, not 7, pillars of, I count really good, speaking success or building a successful speaking business. The first one is core message clarity. So I'm going to tell you what some of the components are, and then I want to come back and talk about how you're going to apply that to your business. Because as you know, I'm all about the application. We don't need more theory, widening the gap between what we know and what we're doing. We need to close the gap by implementing what we know. So I want to talk to you about how you can implement this and use it. And by the way, some of you may be wondering where I am because I'm almost always somewhere different or new. No, I didn't pick my outfit to go with the artwork that's behind me. I might, but I didn't today. I'm at the Alberta Treasury Branch Entrepreneurial Center here in Calgary in their podcast room. They have some great facilities for entrepreneurs to use to access meeting room, training rooms, etc. And by the way, also, if you're a person looking for a venue space in Calgary, Jackie also has some great space in her co-working office called Infusion. So contact her and reach out because I know that she's also looking to co-venture with people on some of their events potentially, and it might just be a good place to work out or to work out of and look at. I looked at a number of places to have some funky, cool, different alternative spaces to put my events than just the standard hotel rooms. And they were challenging to find, certainly challenging to find for my venues, for my dates, sorry. I think people want a change from the standard boring hotel room or, dingy, kind of grody community centers. Some are lovely, but most of those are far out in new districts and subdivisions. So co-working spaces now that are popping up, hey Jay, are often looking for people to hold events there to drive more traffic there so they can book out their co-working spaces. So some of them are quite reasonable, and many of them will hold people up to, I've seen a couple that would hold, well, the last one I was just at, you could easily put 50 to 80 people in one of their rooms, and they had rooms down to 4 or 5. So you may want to look at that. It's a big popular movement, and so co-working space is an alternative. So let me talk to you about core message clarity. I'm going to read her 6 questions verbatim because I think they're brilliant ways to access what you're trying to say, whether it's in a speech, in your marketing, in a program you're creating, in clarifying any message that you want to enroll people in. So number one is, what are the challenges that your audience faces? So whether your audience is a speaking audience you're dealing with, or your kids, or your boss at work, put yourself in their shoes. What are the challenges that your audience is facing? Identify that, clarify that, and keep it to that one question, because people almost always want to merge that, and I did this in the exercise, with question number two: what is the real challenge they're facing? Okay, so especially as experts, we tend to want to jump to cause, not effect. And the first question is asking about the effect. So what is the challenge that they're facing? So I work with entrepreneurs and help them grow their business. The challenge they're facing is they're not making enough money because they don't have enough clients. That's the biggest top of mind issue for most of them. Underlying that is they also feel like they're not having the impact that they want to have, etc. But we, as experts, automatically in our brain go to, and what's causing that is, and we dive deep. The first question is about the effect. What's the pain and the presenting pain that this person is talking to you about, or talking to themselves about, in their brain? Second question is, what is the real challenge they're facing? So in my example, top of mind is, I'm not making enough money, I don't have enough clients. What's the real challenge they're facing? I'm still not going to dive deep into the cause yet, but the real challenge is, in all likelihood, they suck at marketing and sales. They suck at self-promotion. Okay, they're resistant to it, they don't want to do it, they think it's bad, awful, terrible, etc. So the real challenge they're facing is they're not effective at selling. What caused these challenges? Now we're starting to get into the meat of it, the why of it. So the third question is, what caused these challenges? Again, using my example, there's all sorts of limiting beliefs around that and around sales. Certainly, I work predominantly with women, and there's a lot of stories in our patriarchal culture and in our system that we've grown up with that says, be seen, not heard. Who do you think you are? Don't get too big on yourself. You're not enough. We have perpetual, as human beings, a perpetual not enough story, a not enough bullshit story running that gets in the way of us being effective and clear in the marketplace, effective and clear in our lives, with our relationships, etc. So there is some version of a not enough story running that is their particular flavor. So what I mean by that is, for some people, it's, well, so for some people, what's the real challenge they're facing? Oh, sorry, what caused these challenges? It's limiting beliefs around, so for instance, the event I was just at, there was a woman who said, oh, well, we're in Calgary, they don't believe in paying for products here. That's totally a belief. That has nothing to do with reality. People who in every city will pay if they understand the value, and the value is appropriate for them. So what caused the challenges is typically a limiting belief, a story that we tell about ourselves, other people, the world, that is getting in the way and creating that outcome. So if people suck at sales, typically it's because they are ego-focused. What I mean by that is, and this is, I typically find this the most in those who most say they want to help other people. Now, some of you are going to get a little challenged by that, because I know there's a lot of heart-centered people in my community, and a lot of very mission-driven entrepreneurs. And typically, the insecurity that they have creates an ego grounding. And what I mean by that is, I don't want to be pushy, I don't want to be salesy, I don't want to bother them, I don't want to infringe. The common denominator in all of those sentences is I. That's what I mean about ego-driven. If we're focused over here, we are not over there with who they are, what they need, how we can serve them, what they long for, is there anything that we can offer that would support them with that? Those are questions that will allow you to sell and serve. The I don't want to be pushy, I don't want to be a salesy, I don't want to, etc., etc. The I is insecurity-based ego. Okay, and so people will say, oh, well, it's, I'm being humble. No, you're not. You're taking yourself out of the game. So what caused the challenge? In some cases, it's ego. In some cases, coming out of or often connected with insecurity. In some cases, for some people, it's that they aren't clear on what they have to offer. both in terms of their actual products, programs, and services. They aren't clear on their packaging, their pricing, how to position that. Again, hence the course that I created and am putting out soon. Or they aren't clear on value. So let me speak to that really quickly. Our value is not our value. It is the value our products, services, programs, education, expertise provides to other people. We conflate those all the time, and especially women. We hear this as, what's your value, as some kind of intrinsic thing that we have to justify our humanity. We have to justify taking up space on the planet. That's not what a value conversation is about. A value conversation is all about what's in it for them, what is the value to your prospect, to your client, what's the liberation, the outcome, etc. So question number 3 in her process is, what is the real challenge, or question number 2, sorry, is what is the real challenge they're facing? 3, what caused these challenges? So what is at the root of it? This is where you bring your expertise to bear. Number 4, fourth question is, how did you come to know this? Okay, so how did you come to know this? And typically, many of us will go, especially if you've been around for a while, well, 40 years of expertise and experience working with entrepreneurs, observing what gets in their way, what works and what doesn't work with them. That's part of how I came to know this. But really, how I came to know this and how most of us came to know what it is we're working on solving in the world is because we went through that issue. So how did I come to know this? I came to know this because I spun for years in not knowing where to focus and not knowing what I was selling, with not knowing how to package it or price it or position it, and struggled with what I called being in the round room, where there was many doors of possibilities that could go down. And especially if you're, they call it a polymath, but if you're a multi-talented, multifaceted person, Barbara Scher calls us scanners versus delvers. If you have a wide variety of interests, we used to be called Renaissance people. Now we're called flaky. There happens to be one of those people on the call right now, and not flaky, Renaissance man. What that means is we have a wide variety of interests and areas of passion, and that, people often think I got to find my passion or my purpose, and it's one thing. It's not. It's not like you have one job description. You're going to do that job for the rest of your life. That's not my perspective on that at all. My perspective is there is a underlying thread that runs through our lives, that impels us, that calls to us, that is something that's significant that we would really want to resolve. And certainly is the lesson that we are learning through our life experiences, and often therefore have run up against it again and again and again. That's often in the path of our healing, is typically a clarity around what our purpose is, purpose, mission, passion, whatever you want to call it, because it gets different names, is often that we want to solve for other people what we didn't have and wished we did for ourselves. Now, how far back you go with that, it depends on your why. Often our whys get formed when we're young. So, for instance, there was a person at this course who really wanted to provide a voice for women. Why is that? If we dig back far enough, her grandmother didn't have a voice. She couldn't be the person she wanted to be, lived a life of regret, and ended up squished and squelched and not being all that she wanted to be. So this person didn't want that for her grandmother, for her mother, for herself, for anybody else. She wanted to support people in getting their voice out into the world and being heard. Why? Because she wanted to heal the not heard, her version of a not enough story in her world and in her family. For me, my experience is that round room, I thought that I couldn't, that I had to pick one thing. I grew up with a whole lot of scarcity and never enoughness. And so my stand in the world, stand in the world is that not enough ends with me. What I mean by that is I am dealing on eliminating my not enough stories, not eliminating them, because we actually never eliminate them as human beings. They're hardwired into our system, and has been for centuries. Literally, we inherited this from our parents and our grandparents and their parents and so forth and so on. So that's what I mean by it's hardwired in the system. But there is the undistinguished stories of not enough that run us and limit us and keep us from being, doing, and having what we want. And then there's the ones that we can see, look at and go, yeah, that's true, or no, that's not, or yes, I see how that impacts me and runs me. And we can choose and choose again and choose again. And in that, there is freedom. In that, there is an overcoming of the not enough story, not an elimination of it, but a choice to step into something other than not enough, which for me is all as well. For other people, it's abundance. It's whatever your version of that is. I know I'm going through a lot of stuff quickly, but hopefully this is hanging together and making sense for you. So how did I come to know this? I came to know this because what I want for people is to be able to profit from living their purpose fully, and particularly women, because I believe that the healing of our planet and our society is in women's hands right now. That we need to step up as leaders because we need to bring an alternative to the patriarchy into play. That doesn't mean that men are wrong. It doesn't mean that every part of the system doesn't work. It does mean we do need to create alternative ways of being, doing, having, working together, partnering with men, working with the planet. We need alternatives before we implode. And I don't say that to be a, alarmist. I just say that because I am watching what's going on in the world and where we're at as a society. And women need to step up our leadership, truly partner with men, and create an alternative definition of what success is in our world. Now, little rant diatribe aside, how that ties in is, how did I come to know that my audience struggles with what the hell do I sell and how do I package, price, and position it? And the challenge that they're facing below that is they kind of suck at sales and marketing and self-promotion. And underneath that is they're not clear on their why. How do I know that? Because for a long time I spun in trying to really commit to a why. So back to my round room, there's all these doors, there's all these things I could do, there's all of these possible paths and roads I could go down. And so I wouldn't pick, because what if I went through the wrong door? Oh my God, I couldn't be wrong. I would waste all that time going through that door and down that path and investing in that business or that idea or that vision, only to find out that it might not be the right one. And then I'd have to come all the way back and sit in the middle of the room again and do all this analysis paralysis and work to figure out what the right door was. And then go down that path and oh my God, what if it wasn't the perfect path? What if it wasn't my absolute destiny? So I sat in the middle of this round room with all of these doors for literally decades, not picking a door for fear that it would not be the right one, which really underneath that is fear that I would be wrong and that I would not be living up to my potential, and all sorts of stories that I told that kept me sitting there. Until finally, which is question number five, what did you do to overcome this? Well, quite honestly, I kind of got to what I call it my fuck it moment, where the pain of sitting in that room for yet another day outweighed the pain of potentially getting it wrong, i.e. being wrong, which was just, at the time, just not possible. And so, because that would be the end of me, God forbid. So the reality is, in trying to avoid wasting time, money, effort, energy, etc., which was the story I was telling myself, I ended up sitting there wasting time, money, effort, energy, not making the impact I wanted to, not living into the potential that I felt pulled by and pushed by. And so finally, kind of like the very first time I skydived, and I'm hanging off the strut of the plane, and my instructor's saying, go, go. And in my head, I'm saying, go, go. And my body is going, no, no. I'm hanging onto the strut with a death grip. And I won't let go because, clearly if I let go, I'm going to fall and I'm going to die, and that will be the end of me. Much like if I go through the door, I might just die because it will be the wrong one. Finally, the knowledge that A, this was kind of ridiculous, B, I was putting myself in greater harm by continuing to hang on, because we were getting further and further and further away by the second from the drop zone and closer to those trees and wires not too far from here. So I'm putting myself in harm's way. And third, it was kind of a question of, well, what did you come here to do? Well, I came here to jump. Okay, I guess I better let go. And let go. And did my arch and actually landed, stuck a very incredibly difficult landing out of necessity. Little patch of grass in the middle of a freshly mown field of straw. And I don't know if you've ever seen that, if you've ever been on a farm, but freshly cut straw is like landing amongst a bunch of blades sticking out of the ground. So yeah, highly motivated to hit that little piece of grass. Anyway, so finally, what got me off of that strut was that, fuck it, I may die, but I'm going to do it anyways, because the pain of staying stuck is more detrimental, harms me more, is more frustrating, is more challenging than simply letting go. So, and stepping into the unknown. Often what moves us forward is not the lack of fear. It's the willingness to take action in spite of it. I'm a big advocate in our group in Bodacity's Action Heroes. Our tagline is bold lives, bold businesses, or building bold businesses and bold lives. And it's not that these are fearless women. These are fearful women, women who have a lot at stake in their lives, who are stretching out to create the more that they want to be, do, and have, not have to be, do, and have, by the way, because there's a whole bunch of pursuing more that's not about that and not about freedom, but that they choose to be, do, and have. And what is always required when we stretch outside our edges, our comfort zone, is courage. So that is what Bodacity really is about, and community in general. So whether it's Bodacity's Action Heroes or the Bodacity community, or working with me or working with other people, or Jackie's Pure Potential group, or any community, part of why we do that is so that we can borrow the courage of others, that we can have someone hold our heart and our hand as we leap. So what did you do to overcome this? I let go, I picked a door, and I walked through it. So I put my stick in the sand, even if it wasn't quote unquote right. And I made a commitment to walking down that path. So that's one thing I did. The second thing I did was I got support along the way. So I got mentorship. I got someone to walk beside me with a headlamp to shine down the path so I could see this path that was unfamiliar to me, with greater support and help and illumination, which saved me time, money, effort, etc. I was willing to be wrong. I was willing to pick, stick, and then revise if necessary. So often what I see is entrepreneurs get into business and they're in business for 1 or 2 or 3 years, typically in the 2 to 3 year mark. They have started what they thought they were supposed to be. They've gotten advice and they've gone in certain directions, which may or may not have anything to do with who they are and what they actually want to do and be in the world and the problem they want to solve. And they've started by virtue of testing to get refined understandings of who do they want to work with, what do they want to do, what services do they enjoy delivering. And until they've actually done the work for 2 to 3 years, who we think our target market is at the beginning is a complete guess. What we think we're going to enjoy doing, complete guess. How we want to deliver that, completely making that shit up. Which is fine as long as we understand that we're making it up, and we need to refine it based on implementation, testing, and seeing what we like, what works, what suits our style, what's authentic, what we can sell, and where the demand is that fits with our strategy. So part of overcoming the inertia in our business is understanding that there is natural points at which we're going to pivot, reinvent ourselves, and that is part of the game. That's part of life. Every single person I know goes through what I'm going to call growth spurts and plateaus where we expand our context, our container of who we're being, what we know, what our experience of life is. And if we consciously work on that, we do it on a more regular basis and do it consciously as opposed to by default. Some of us, there's some people do it by default and they have dis-ease or traumas or dramas come into our lives to help them expand their context. It's one of my harder ways of learning. I'm working on stepping forward into it instead of backing into it, but both work. So the sixth question is, what do you want your audience to do next? What do you want your audience to do next? And why? So I've added the why. Actually, Jackie had it in there as well, but it's let's add it specifically to the question. So what do you want your audience to do next is your call to action to, typically, if you're speaking, if you're in your marketing, if you're doing networking, if you are negotiating with your kids to do chores, if you're trying to get your partner to go on a vacation with you, the call to action is really, really rather critical to the whole process because you've walked them through all these steps. And without a specific, clear, detailed, I want you to take this piece of paper, go over there, fill it out, bring it to this table, and sign up. Or I want you to go into your room, pick up your clothes, put them in the hamper, take the hamper down to the laundry room, and throw them into the washing machine on cold. You got to be clear, specific, and direct in your calls to action, so that people, when we've enrolled them in why they are doing what they're doing, and there's a win in it for them, there's a what's in it for them, they're clear on how to create that win. So don't lead them to the promised land and then abandon them. Tell them how they can get across the finish line, how they can win. So what do you want your audience to do next, and why? The why comes back to what's in it for them. Why do they want to do this? How is this going to help them? What's in it for them? So I'm going to repeat the core message: clarity. Use this and apply it go back to your marketing materials and take a look and see if it answers every one of these questions. If it doesn't, you are probably skipping a step and leaving your people behind. Look at it in terms of any offers that you're doing. Does it have these components? If not, again, you're going to lose people because you're missing an important critical part. When you're enrolling people in a vision, maybe you're onboarding staff or you're trying to get your boss to okay your project in your job, take a look at and answer these questions for yourself. Whether you walk them through specifically that process or not, you may shorten it. I know masterful people who collapse all of these into one paragraph or one message, but they do have all of the components. So number one is, what are the challenges that your audience face? Whether it's your boss or your partner or your kids or your literal audience or your clients, what's the challenge that they face? Number two is, what is the real challenge they're facing? So that's the effect. What's the cause? But the cause, let me put it this way. Number one is, what's the effect? Top of mind thing that presenting pain. Number two is, what is the challenges what is the real challenge they're facing? Is the how do I say this? It's the cause of the symptom. So the first one is the symptom. The symptom is not making enough money. The cause of the symptom is not making enough sales. Okay. Now, number three is, what caused these challenges? That's where you go into what is the actual cause of those effects. So what is the underlying beliefs? What are the limitations? What are the lack of systems and processes? What is the what is the not clear enough what's in it for them? So if your kids aren't picking up their socks, or your husband won't have sex with you, or you don't get to enroll people in your vision for changing the planet, chances are good that there's not enough clarity around what caused the challenge is the pains and the problems that they're pushing away from and what they're moving towards. It's the combination of those two things, the stick and the carrot, and the very clear what's in it for them to do something about it. Number four, how did you come to know this? So where did you learn this? And the more specific we are about that, the more clear and direct, non-generic, and accountable about where we learned this. So yes, I've got 40 years of experience of seeing it out there. Where did I really learn it? On the court in my life, in terms of my business challenges and struggles. So that's number 4. How did you come to know this? Number 5 is, what did you do to overcome it? So what specific steps did you take? What did you learn? What was the intervention needed? And by the way, the intervention is associated with your solution or desired outcome. It's the program you're selling to solve their problems. It's your coaching services. It's the how you gave yourself permission to go on a lovely vacation when you weren't giving yourself permission before. It's what you needed to do to overcome the resistance to dealing with the issues that are really getting in the way, the causal problems. And by the way, that's both, in most cases, in our marketing and in our world that we're working with today, you got to be honest about both the internal shifts required and the external shifts required. So what did I do to overcome it? Yes, I got a coach. Yes, I read tons of books on how to break through that. Yes, I did courses and so forth. And I did the work on my own scarcity stuff, and I did the internal work. So I would tell stories about both of those sides of things. What did you do to overcome it? And what do you want your audience to do next? So the call to action, the very specific directions about, now what? Great, we've got real clear on what the challenge is, what the real challenge is, what caused the challenge, how come I know that, what I did to overcome it. Here's what I want you to do about that. Here's what I'm enrolling you in terms of the action taken to alleviate that problem for you. And why this matters to you is benefit, benefit, benefit. Here's what's in it for you. Here's what's in it for me, you know, because you'll be honest about that as well, so that you can really get rocking and rolling with them and have that core message clear, because this is another path to access your why, but it's also a great way for you to be able to be effective in sales, marketing, enrolling people in all sorts of things. Now, one of the things that I thought was a great comment that Jackie made is there's a very distinct difference between your core message clarity and your messaging. So where we take that clarity then can inform, and in fact does become in some cases part of our copy, but there is a difference between the messaging and the positioning and how we translate that core message into the world. So again, that's part of why I created What the Hell Do I Sell? How to package, price, and position your expertise. I'm going to put the URL to the event into the comments below. I encourage you and invite all of you to check it out. Go click on the URL, and here's what I want you to know. There is, it's a phenomenal stinking deal. Now, you know, sometimes people say that and they're just blowing sunshine up your skirt, but seriously, I know how much value you're going to get out of this. I know how much clarity, because I'm bringing 40 years of chutzpah to this and know-how. It's a 2.5 day, so it's an evening where I'll buy you dinner and we'll get to know each other over dinner and do a bit of the training, and then a 2 full day hands-on, intimate, intensive, where we're going to do the work so that we can actually really get clarity. You leave with a blueprint in place for your business model that's going to serve you. You're going to leave with copy written about your whys, your 3 whys and a what, and all sorts of clarity. I don't want to do a big long description here because you can go and read about it, but basically you leave with lots of hands-on work done. And because I know, like most people, we go to those events and sometimes it's like being hit with a fire hose. There's so much content and information and things we want to apply it to that we need more time to process, apply it, work on it, etc. You'll leave with lots done, and I want you to also be able to implement it on your next program and on your next thing that you're doing. So I also am including in that the online program as a bonus for those people who sign up for the live program. And what that includes is 8 weeks of going through the content, broken down, bite-sized pieces where we're really going to work on how does that look for you. Here's some variations, some refinements, some deeper dives into each of the pieces, and implementation coaching support along the way, Q&A about where you're getting stuck, where you're getting hung up. Here, that's great copy, let's adjust this title. Really practical, tactical support. followed by the 8-week training is going to be followed by a 4-week period where there's no more content, where it's all about application. So you're going to have 4 weeks of group coaching with me and everybody else working on, okay, here's how I tried this and it didn't quite work, or it doesn't resonate, or I'm not really clear on, what caused the challenge for my people. I'm not really clear on why they should pick me. And we'll work together on refining that in the implementation phase with some real specific deliverables, like I'll want to see your marketing copy that's been revised based on this course. Like I want to see results that are going to help you get more sales and more clients, and your talents, brilliance, and expertise out into the world in a way that has the impact that I know my people want, that I know that if you're listening to this, you want to make the difference that you are here to make. And we can't do that if we're getting in our own way. So you can go to Eventbrite and search for What the Hell Do I Sell? There will be information there. I'll also put the URL in the comments section below. You're welcome to IM me here on Facebook. We'll get on a call and talk about where you're at in your business and if it's appropriate for you at this stage, because it's not for people who are complete newbies. It's not for people who are not clear about what they sell, which sounds ironic, but we're not creating from nothing. We are taking where you've been and what you've learned and honing it, adjusting it, tweaking it so that you can go to your next level. So, and your next level is not just from starting from scratch, okay? So let's get on a phone call and talk and see if it is right for you. And then we'll talk about the live versus the online and so forth, so that you can see if it's a good fit and if now is the right time. And indeed, if I'm the right person for you to work with on that. So I look forward to talking to you. I hope this one piece of Jackie's content, and thank you, Jackie, for your brilliant clarity around ways to access that. It's similar to my approach to getting clear on people's whys, why they do what they do. This is another way for you to access that. So please go take this little checklist, test it against your current marketing. If you aren't answering these questions on your website needs work. And by the way, I'm going to go do this with my website because I know that I don't have that kind of clarity on my website. If this isn't in your speaking when you're talking to people about who you are, what you do, and what you have to offer, and what's in it for them, then chances are you're not going to be effective in actually enrolling them in what you'd like for you and for them. So take these. Hopefully this will help you with clarifying it, but it won't do anything if you don't actually do the work and apply it. So go have a bodacious day applying this core message clarity to all that you're up to and see how it benefits you. I'd be happy to hear what you discovered. If you've got questions about this, just put it in the comments below and I will either do a video reply, I'll get you to hop on and do an instant, Facebook Live with me, or I'll just answer in the comments below. So if you've got questions about any of this or any of my Mentors Moments or Ask the Expert interviews, please put them in the comments below. Thanks for being here, everybody. Have a bodacious day. This is Jeanette signing off from the Bodacity Show, wishing you all the willingness that you need to make your next leap. Bye, everybody.